Hey, it's Tpok. I'm back in true Remembrance, and yeah, our destination, by the way, was not on 6th proper, but on a back street a block or so away. Its door was unadorned but for a nameplate that simply read, Aroma. Oh, a new character. As we opened the door and walked in, a chime rang out and soon thereafter so did a casual voice. Welcome. Hey, wait a second. Why, if it isn't Blackiris, long time no see, man. I raised a hand in casual response. The proprietor here was one of the few acquaintances I had, you see. Been out of town or something? I haven't seen you around these parts in forever, you know? No, I've been here the whole time. What do? Barricade yourself in your apartments? In your apartment? That's not good, yo. Oh, I got it. Don't tell me you... My acquaintance's flood of sarcasm suddenly went dry when he spotted the girl who was standing behind me. Actually, it was more like La was hiding behind the folds of my greatcoat and scoping out the cafe's interior. Got a girlfriend? He at least had the good grace to manage a strange smile. La, on the other hand, reacted with no grace at all. She startled, flushed red as a beet, and began to shake her head violently. Fascinating. I let her go for a bit longer until I became distinctly afraid that she might very well shake her head clear off her shoulders. This is my guest. I see. Right. No way a cute little thing like this would shack up with an oddball like you, right? What was I thinking, man? This was insulting, but it also happened to be true, so I couldn't really say anything. Okay, self-confidence, check. I had La sit at the counter, and then took a seat next to her. Welcome. The name's Rook, and the honor's all mine. Don't you be forgetting me now, okay, little lady? You even managed a sly wink at La with the last sentence. She's still in shock. She's been in shock forever. Smooth, man. Real smooth. Too smooth for me to want to imitate, as a matter of fact, if you know what I mean. La must have been as dumbstruck as I was, as she took a very long time to answer. La. Charmed, I think. She then bowed politely. Too politely, almost. A look of surprise flashed across Rook's face, then he burst out laughing. Oh man, we've got a bona fide cutie here. Hey, little La. How old are you? Rook asked as he leaned over the counter and grinned. I sighed inwardly. See, this was just like him. He was like a dog with a bone whenever something interested him. My polar opposite, in other words. La, of course, was squirming uncomfortably in her seat by now. Obviously, this attention was unwanted. I sighed, outwardly this time around, and turned to face Rook. If you know what's good for you, you will stop harassing my guest, please. I'm not harassing her at all, man. I'm just really interested in her, that's all. What's wrong with getting to know her a bit nice and personal, huh? What? Fine, have it your way. Just stop glaring at me like that, man. Rook shrugged vaguely as if to say, you're damn scary when you glare. La, meanwhile, was sighing with relief now that her interrogation was over. Did you come for lunch? It's a bit early for that, but hey, whatever. So, what'll it be? Up to you. Hey, La, anything in particular you want to eat? I butchered that. No idea. That came as no surprise. There were no menus here at Cafe Aroma. Rook always just made whatever he felt like anyway, whether it was what the customer had ordered or not. So I guess it was my mistake to even ask the question in the first place. Dude, just what kind of guide are you anyhow? Rook asked in surprise. Well, yeah, someone like him who smothered his guests with all manner of unwanted attention would find me odd. Hey, Lil La, you want to be my guest from now on? He said with a creepy face. I swear you'll have lots of fun. Sorry, no. Rook smiled wryly, as if to say, "Aw, that's too bad," and got busy behind the counter. Much to my surprise, La smiled back, so obviously she was starting to warm up to him. A female guest, though. What was Dexter thinking, anyway? Rook wondered aloud as he began washing some vegetables. This Dexter, by the way, was the supervisor to whom several Mnemonicides, including Rook and me, reported. Every single one of my assignments came from Dexter himself. Law, for instance. But isn't it official policy not to allow male-female pairings? Man, if that's changed, when am I going to be up for one? Most likely never. You, with the girl, we'd fear for her life. You're probably right. After all, if I've got to live with such a cutie like Lil La here, there's no telling what might happen. Sorry about that. You're probably right. After all, I've got to live with a cutie like Lil La here. There's no telling what might happen. Okay, that's creepy. That reminds me. Hey, little lady. If Blackiris here does something he shouldn't, you come running to me, you hear? Out of the frying pan and into the fire, indeed. By this time, Rick was slicing up some fillets of fish without having to even look at what he was doing. Now, I wasn't so bad at cooking myself, but this guy was really a pro. And like most other top-flight chefs, he was a real eccentric. Case in point, he would rather give up his Mnemonicide status than his cafe here. Although he didn't have enough customers for this place to be viable. He'd probably be wildly successful if he opened a restaurant somewhere other than this godforsaken town. But he couldn't do that, and he had no inclination to either. Here you go. He put gargantuan fish and vegetable burgers, grilled it to perfection before each of us. La's looked almost as big as her head, but she bravely grabbed it with 2 hands and started digging in nonetheless. And she dug in with total gusto. The look of delight on her face was just fascinating. But she'd get mad if I stared at her for any longer, so I turned my attention to my own food. Rook watched us eating for a bit, and once he was satisfied that we were satisfied, began grinding some coffee beans. By hand. I'd never seen him do it any other way. Soon the aroma of fresh ground coffee filled the air. It was so wonderful, in fact, that it made La look up from her burger. Coffee? Wait a second. The way she said that, it was as if the first time she's ever even encountered this stuff. Okay, the trolley thing I could explain away, but this? Curiouser and curiouser. Nah, not coffee at all. This little lady is what we call espresso. Although Blackiris, well, he can't get that through his skull. I tried, I tell you. Is that different from coffee? Totally. The way beans are roasted, and how they're pressed, how much caffeine there is, how it tastes, all different. But a barbarian like Blackiris here would never understand that. Rook pulled the lever on his espresso machine as he grumbled. Then, after a calculated pause, he pulled the lever again. No grumbles this time around. 2 demituses. And, of course, I'm getting messaged. This wonderful smelling dark liquid materialized before us soon thereafter. Here you go. Okay. I'm waiting. I'm just gonna mute Skype because I don't want to go offline at the moment. Okay, Skype. Mute yourself. There. Here you go, sweets for the sweet. La, the cafe's mocha's got your name on it. The usual cafe corretto for you, Blackiris. Impeccable timing as usual since we'd both just finished our burgers. La picked up her demitasse gingerly, as if it were the most delicate thing in the world, and breathed in the rising vapors. Smells good. Of course. This is my specialty, see? Now Rook was always this way with the ladies. But today he seemed to be even more effervescent than usual. Then again, Law wasn't brushing him off the way most women did, so maybe that was it. Oh, right, Blackiris. Got an assignment, and not from Dexter. Consultation requisition for a high-level Mnemonicide. Lucky you, you've been tapped. Tapped? Wait. I'm currently with the guest. It's not safe or legal to double up like that. Come to think of it, yeah. I wonder, how come Dexter didn't tell me you were with the guest anyway? He's usually really good about that. Probably just a communications breakdown. Anyway, relay my regrets for me, will you? Rook froze, then shot me a half-sheepish, half-evil look. He and I had been colleagues for long enough that I knew what this meant. He'd screwed me over. No choice, man. I had to agree. Let's just say this new client is well connected. While Rook himself was a competent enough mnemonicide, his true talent in that area was as a fence. He ran a black market brokerage that matched mnemonicides with prospective guests outside of official channels. It was all strictly hush-hush. None of us had said a thing about it to Dexter, and he hadn't asked. Our clients were diverse, but they all had one thing in common. They were rich and powerful. I had no idea where Rook found the time to own and operate this fine and unprofitable restaurant, given everything else he did. I suppose that made him something of a workaholic. This case will be a cinch, I tell you. You'd be done in 24 hours, I guarantee it. No idea why they insisted on a Class Alpha Mnemonicide, really. Haha. It was a rare pleasure to see him groveling and begging like this. Except it wasn't that rare, and it was no pleasure at all this time around. I didn't care about this being a technical violation of the law so long as the pay was good, and it was, but right now Law was my guest. She had priority, and that was something I could not violate. So I was gonna have to say no. But then, as if she could read my mind, Law casually said, "Don't mind. Your call." But no worries. As you were. Her speech was as curt and to the point as usual, but there was something awfully ill at ease about the way she said it. What? Did she dislike being pampered the way the rules dictated guests must be? If that was so, she really was an odd one. Most guests who came here were so starved for attention that at first they grew addicted to our care. Wait, if Law really did dislike being waited on hand and foot, was that why she was assigned to a mnemonicide who wasn't particularly good to his guests? That brought up all sorts of possibilities that I didn't want to think about. Alright, fine. But you owe me one. Oh, don't bother calling me at my apartment, I'm not there. I'm currently at the house on the top of the hill at 8th Street, so send your client there. I'll make it up to you somehow. 8th, eh? Isn't that kind of out in the boonies? Nice and peaceful, actually. So much so that I have half a mind to move there permanently. Oh, get off it, man. You're not old enough to retire yet. Anyway, thanks a bunch for this. I'll have the client at your location by the day after tomorrow. Roger that. The three of us killed some time together after that. Law and I would have stayed longer, but it became obvious the clouds were preparing to burst with snow, so we left in a hurry. Luckily, we found our way back to our place on 8th Street before the first flakes began pouring from the sky. Okay, good, I guess. Another day passed. One thing had become painfully apparent by now. Law was oblivious to the ways of the world. It was tempting to chalk it up to her being stuck-up, spoiled little princess, but she wasn't stuck up, she wasn't spoiled, and she didn't put on airs like a princess. Generally, the guide is supposed to take care of all the housework. Law, however, was actively helping out in any way she could. She couldn't keep her hands to herself if she tried. And she wasn't trying anyhow. The weird thing was, it wasn't because she felt sorry about making me do all the work. The way her eyes glistened, the way she skipped and hopped about, It was obvious that she was having the time of her life. There were some ways in which this came as a relief. I had not, for instance, been looking forward to the prospect of doing a girl's laundry. So obviously I was more than happy to let Law take care of it. Well, that is, other than the fact that she had no idea how to operate a washing machine. I can't remember clearly how she started it the first time around, tried to figure it out for herself. After a long time, indeed, she came running to me defeated. When I told her which buttons to press, her eyes lit up, and off she went. Trial, error, trial again, success. Such were the patterns of that day. Now it was around time for this other guest to arrive. I hadn't been able to take Law out anywhere yesterday, just in case Rook might need to get a hold of me. I'd probably be stuck here today, too. After all, if I really only had one day with this guest, finding and obliterating his psychic corrosion was going to be priority number 1. Now I'd expected that Law would be bored out of her. She never had a word of displeasure for me. In fact, she seemed to be enjoying herself, judging from the spring in her step and the twinkle in her eye. Every so often, though, she would come to me with loneliness and loss written all over her face. She would stay by my side in silence for hours. If it were not for these times, I would have been almost impossible to believe that she was afflicted with the dolor at all. I heard someone knocking at our door as I was cleaning up after breakfast. I immediately abandoned my dishwashing and rushed to answer. But by the time I rounded the corner to the foyer, he'd already started knocking again. Oh, hello. When I opened the door, I was surprised to be greeted by a face that was much lower to the ground than I expected. I was referred. I have an appointment with Dr. Blackiris, the Mnemonicide. Is he here? He happens to be me. What? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. It's just that you're a lot younger than I thought you'd be. A lot younger, eh? That was my line. Rook, man, you're killing me here. You didn't tell me you were starting a babysitting service. I mean, he was younger than Law, even. A lot younger. When Rook had told me that this client was well-connected, I assumed that he was talking about a governmental official or a captain of industry, not this. My name is Marcello. Nice to meet you, sir. The pleasure is mine. Please come on in then, Marcello. You may call me Mar, if you please. If you please, huh? Well dressed and with a haughty manner of speech to boot, so I was definitely dealing with a rich kid then. Great. When Mar stepped into the living room, Law almost dropped the plate she'd been washing and stared. Not surprising, she'd probably been expecting someone a lot older and taller. After an uncomfortable moment, she whipped back to her dishes, squeezing her sponge so hard that suds frothed out onto the sink. Her surprise, however, was dwarfed by that of our new arrival. Sorry. He suddenly and inexplicably bowed his head in apology. Now I had no clue what was going on anymore. And seeing that he was flushing beet red, I didn't want to know what was going on inside his head right now either. So I sighed and hastened to explain the situation, but... Mar, this is La. Oh, I'm so sorry. I had no idea your lady friend was here. I guess, give me a moment and I'll leave right away. Mar didn't even let me finish my sentence. At the very moment he finished his sentence, though, Law's fingers chose to go completely nerveless. The unfortunate thing was that she kind of had a plate in them at the time. There was a crash and much tinkling. White porcelain shards spread all over the kitchen floor. And now we had not just one but 2 young people blushing so furiously that they might as well have been on the surface of the sun. I just wanted to bury my head in my hands and be done with the day. Law happens to be my guest. Just like you. Huh? Oh, I see. Right. I had no idea. Well, hopefully you have one now. Mars sank down onto a chair as if his last words had drained all the strength out of him. Oh, Law, be careful not to get cut there. Want some help? No, thanks. I'll be fine. That didn't make me worry any less about her. But now that she'd said she'd be fine, that there wasn't much I could do. So instead I turned to Mar and began anew. As you already know, I'm Blackiris, a Mnemonicide. I will be your guide for a short time. Should you wish to call me by any other name, go ahead and do so. I won't mind. Thank you, sir. Glad to be in capable hands. We'll see about that. Now, won't you tell me a little bit about your psyche corrosion? How did it start? Do you remember? Up until this point in their treatment, what I'd said to La and Mar had been not differed substantially. But La was a severe case, necessitating a long internment here. In her case, my only course of action was to chip away at her psyche corrosion slowly, over weeks and months. I had no choice. How could I, when my guest was clearly numb to the depths of her own sorrow? In comparison, Mar's dolor was only mild. Guests in his situation usually knew exactly where their psyche corrosion was coming from, and could point me towards the source with relative ease. Then I could move in with surgical precision and cut the memories out cleanly, quick and simple. Mar shot me a confused look, then spoke hesitantly. Psyche corrosion? No, actually, I, just want you to erase every last memory I have. He was joking, right? If he was, that was pretty funny. But the way he was looking at me, it was quite obvious that this was no joke at all. I felt rather than saw La poking her head out of the kitchen. Obviously, she'd overheard everything. Obviously, she was quite intrigued by this turn of events. It was entirely obvious whether or not... Oh, it wasn't entirely obvious whether or not she'd finished cleaning up the broken porcelain. So, you want me to erase, what, 10 or 11 years of memory all at once? Is that it? 15, if you please. My apologies, then. I'm afraid that's... impossible? Even for you, Dr. Blackiris, the class Alpha Mnemonicide? I heard that alphas were incredibly powerful. Are you trying to tell me that even you have your limits? Pardon my asking, but are you even an alpha at all? He was really fixated on this alpha thing, wasn't he? Or he was just trying to provoke me into action by slandering my abilities as a Mnemonicide. If he was making a big mistake. I had no such pride in my profession. But then again, I do not recall ever having used the word impossible, I answered honestly. But this did not seem to make Mar particularly happy. I could hear him muttering, "So you can't do it," with an almost dispirited air. I searched his face for a long time indeed before I said anything more. Yes, I can, but some preparations are necessary. I think I'll be ready by nightfall. Can you wait that long? Of course. I will wait. All right. Then feel free to do whatever you like until then. If there's anything you need, just holler. I will be around. Yes, sir. I left Mar where he was and headed into the kitchen. La looked a little concerned. Total erasure? Erasure? I don't know. Impossible, right? Who knows? I've never tried it before, but I think it can be done. Probably. Nice of you. We Mnemonicides have some interesting capabilities, you know. What, are you afraid? La looked down at the floor for a moment. When she snapped her head up again, there was something akin to anger in her eyes. No way! She turned on her heel and stormed out of the kitchen. My, so I made her mad, huh? Yes, apparently you did. I'm gonna save it here. Thanks for watching. I'm liking this, and it shouldn't be too long if you don't like it. I read somewhere it was like 3 hours, so it'll probably take me 4 because I read kind of slow. Oh well. Thanks for watching.